in Nigeria.
Also here with us in the studios is a director in charge of product development at the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, William Ezeagu. Mr. Ezeagu, pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you. Good morning, Nigerians.
We also have in our studio a regular face, a farmer and development economist, Dr. Emeka Okengo. You're welcome to the program.
Pleasure to be here. Good morning, Nigeria.
Also joining us via Zoom is Professor Mohammed Kuta Yahya, Department of Agricultural Extension and Rural Development, University of Ibadan. Thank you so much for joining us on Good Morning, Nigeria.
Good morning, viewers.
All right, gentlemen, once again, our delight to have you join us this morning. And we are all familiar with regular stories about the rejection of Nigeria's agricultural produce exports. You hear once in a while, Nigeria's beans has been rejected by the EU. And now cocoa, which is a cash crop, is also joined the list. And this is at a time that we also understand that China, it's started its own export of cocoa to EU countries. And ordinarily, West Africa is supposed to be the main hub for the production of cocoa. Nigeria has a wide variety of cash crops and also food crops. But what is the real situation? Let's begin by having an overview. First with William Ezeagu, who is of the Export Promotion Council, with regard to Nigeria's agricultural exports.
Thank you, moderator. I want to, at this point, to appreciate Nigerians for the interest they have in non-oil exports. And at this point, I want to say that also to say that my executive director, Dr. Ezra Yakusak, has mandated me to be here this hour.
That's why you are here.
Yes, sir. So on the Nigerian, on the issue of non-exports, especially on the agri side, I want to say that it's a general problem in terms of quality. We discovered there are a lot of, when you're exporting a product, a lot of issues come up. There's issue of production, but right from the farm gate to storage, to marketing. We also have the issue of quality in terms of the seedlings used. We also have the issue of pesticides used, okay? We also have the issue of storage itself. So a lot of issues. And each of products has its own peculiarity, okay? For example, you take up beans. Now, beans, because number one, the production is also a problem. Farm gates to export has an issue, okay? Now you take up pesticides used in terms of preservation. Even application of pesticides to the agrochemicals, to the product itself when in production. These are issues that the farmers, sometimes, they are not aware of. Even when they are aware, because of the economic situation, they're looking at the cost, they're trying to manage their costs, a lot of issues, they just misuse applications of these chemicals. Most of these chemicals, in the first instance, have been banned in the country where you want to export them to. And originally, the farmer, actually that market will not be where the product is supposed to go. Okay, but because there's everybody wants to export, and so suddenly somebody will just go up one day and say, I want to export. He goes in and pick beans, it goes to a market that product is not meant for beans. So that's one of them. The second one is that the issue of, like I said, pesticide management is now very critical in the international market. The chemical you use, for instance, for cash crops, okay, people are looking at organic now. So if the quality and the quality of organic of the pesticides you use, of the agrochemicals you use are essential. Okay, for example, cocoa, there's pest problem with cocoa, but the issue is that you must use the agrochemical that is approved by the importing country, for example, the EU in this case. Okay, so we must use, but if we don't use it, sometimes that's where the problem comes. Again, the issue of organizational structure management. Compare Nigeria to Ivory Coast or to Ghana. Ivory Coast in cocoa is handled by the cocoa board. Ghana, cocoa is handled by cocoa board. Okay, so from production to storage to marketing, there's a value chain which must be conformed to the standard set by the board. But in Nigeria, unfortunately, we don't have an agency or an institution that can guide farmers on what to do. It's a question of exporters guiding them. Sometimes these exporters, because of the cost benefit, they will not give them the real information. So it's important we're able to get it right, because a lot of issues need to be. And the issue of handling, packaging and labeling. Actually, when it comes to reject, a lot of issues are involved. In US, for example, 60% of our export to the US are rejected not because the product is bad, not because the quality is bad, no, but because labeling, and labeling is an issue, packaging is an issue. You might ask you to do a certain, a meter of your lettering, the size, you might be in this language, a lot of issues that need to pick on that.
Sorry, Mr. Isaac, we'll just take it one after the
You
other.
have to
Just say,
go.
you're talking, you moved from Europe to the US, for instance.
Yes, sir.
And you say a major factor in the rejection of Nigeria's agricultural exports to the US, they have to do with labeling.
Yes, sir.
What are, just tick off the items. You were talking about lettering and so on. Take it so that our viewers can understand.
Okay. Now let me take an example. If you have maybe a bottle of water or a bottle of drug, now when you look at the labeling, you see that there's what we call the size of the labeling is something that in US is very key. Now also the font you use, of course also the ingredients in that product also is very important, and that's why before product goes to the US, you do what we call the FDA. You must get an FDA approval to go into that US market. That what it means that product have been pre-accessed before coming to the US. Okay, that many of them, but because Nigeria's promotion is really doing much on that area right now, we are doing much of sensitization and all that. So that's key to that market. Okay, for example, again, you go to a country like Mexico, where we do a hibiscus export. That's what we call Zobo. Now, issue again is that the issue of the value chain. That's up to do, which Mr. Segbe will address very soon. But the issue there is, for example, the issue of pest in the product. And that's why they brought us back to say, look, start from day one when you are trying to plan this thing. So that when it gets to, from there to when you store it, what I mentioned earlier, production, processing. Then from production to the warehouse, must be certified. The operators, the women that are doing it shouldn't be anyhow. People must get to a clean place that they use hand glove and all that, everything, organic waste, and so that these things will come out clean. And exactly that's what I think when the Nigerian Agricultural Quarantine Service will speak, this is actually the area of mandate, and I know they have done so well. So a lot of issues. And each product, like I said, has peculiarities, which incidentally what Nigeria's proposition is doing right now. We are now addressing this product one after the other, addressing the exporters, addressing SMEs on this, even including certification, which I will maybe mention later.
Yes, okay. Mr. William, thank you so much for your opening comments there. Let me now join Dr. Vincent Isegwe. Growing up, reading about agriculture in secondary and primary school, we learned that agriculture used to be the mainstay of the economy of this country, and it still has the potential to do that. How can we change the narrative? Because experts say Nigeria can be the food basket of Africa. What's your take on that?
Thank you very much. I wish to straight away say that agriculture will be, and will continue to be the mainstay of the Nigerian economy. And in fact, most other economies around. Because one, to start with, you need to eat food first before you have the sanity, to be able to do any other thing. And food is used as a strong, both foreign and defense policy of most strong nations. So Nigeria cannot be an exception. Having said that, it's important that we key into what is happening around the whole world concerning agriculture. Hitherto, we're just producing. Nigeria #1 in cassava, Nigeria #1 in yam, Nigeria #2 or 3 in ginger, sesame. Where has that taken us to? The issue is not to produce anyhow, if you permit me to use that word, but to produce to the export certification that can earn us good foreign exchange. That's what we're talking about now. And that's the essence of the export certification value chain that for the past 3 years the quarantine service have put in place, and for which we are now bringing stakeholders to say, look, come, let's sit down. Let's revolutionalize agriculture. The issue of value chain has not been an issue that we have paid attention as a nation. But in the last 10 years, yes, it has come to fore that we must do agriculture as a business. Agribusiness is what it's supposed to be. And that's what other nations have been doing to be successful. When we were #1 oil palm in the 60s and 70s, we were not practicing agribusiness. We were just producing. Now, the realities have come to bear. and we have to change. Thank God our government have realized that, and they have put structures and policies in place for us to do agriculture as a business. And that is why we now have to focus on those things. And in doing it as a business, there are challenges, just like Mr. Ezeagu said. Export, to be sincere with each and every one of us, is not an all-commerce business. Export is a business that we must be prepared for, to be able to understand what it takes, to understand the product itself, know how it is produced, know how it is stored, know how it is handled, and at the end of the day, presented at the export or certification inspection decks for it to be satisfied and then exported. All those things are things that we must necessarily take note of to be able to be successful. Other countries have done so, and they are successful. Kenya is doing well, Ghana is doing well, and there's no reason why Nigeria, 205 million people by the assumed statistics of Nigerian population, there's no reason why we cannot do that well. And by the special grace of God, we have started and we'll go to where we need to go to be able to ensure that we produce the quantity that we need to feed the 205 million people, and at the same time have enough to export. This is the challenge before us, and this is what we are trying to resolve. Now, the export certification value chain, take for beans that we talked about. Nigeria is economically placed, strategically placed to produce enough beans, especially the one we call the sweet brown beans. Some other call it honey beans. Very valuable product. But again, there are no structures in place. Chemicals are sold anyhow to people. Some of those chemicals are not labeled. And farmers apply them. Then the warehouse managers and aggregators apply them because nobody has told them that the previous person that sold to them had applied those chemicals. So there's a multiplier effect on the use of those chemicals. And in the export certification value chain, we are saying no, that is not how it's supposed to be. Because in each of the value chains that the quarantine service have put in place, there are 5 critical players in the value chain. The state governments, in ensuring that they put in place a farmer group, registered, who know exactly what they are supposed to do, and with a command structure in place. Then you have the suppliers, those who are supposed to buy from the farmers. Then you have the exporters, who eventually will buy from the suppliers. Don't forget, in between the supplier and the farmer, there's another value chain, the logistics and the warehouse managers. We sandwich them between those two value chains. Then, of course, you have the Nigerian Agricultural Quarantine Service that will do the inspection and certification. We have realized that we cannot wait until people produce. They come with 10, 15 containers for inspection, and we say, oh no, these commodities cannot pass because they have not met the storage facilities, they have not met the pesticide level specification, or they have not met other qualities. It will be a disservice to those farmers, and that's why the quarantine service is bending behind, doing what we call backward integration, to let the farmer know if you are producing, not just for export alone, because even when in the country, we should eat good quality food. This is how you are going to do your farm. This is the pesticide you are supposed to use. This is the level. This is how you should apply it. If you are storing, this is how you are going to store it, and label those commodities so that there could be traceability. Any product we are exporting, we should be able to know which state it came from, which farmer produced it. In that way, if we have any issue, we can trace. That is the international requirement of us as a nation, and that is what we are pursuing. Except we are able to do that, we'll continue to have challenges. However, I just want to add before somebody else speaks that, like Mr. Ezeagu said, it is not that our products are bad. No. 80% of our products, so to say, 80-85% are quite good. Most of the rejects that we have are what we call prohibitive items, like bark of trees, like other things that countries say they don't want. Kola nut to Saudi Arabia is banned, so you don't have to carry kola nut there. Those are prohibitive items. The other probably 5-10% are the ones that have what we call the phytosanitary issues of pests, probably of pesticides and what have you. So we need to do that. Then the next question will be, if issue is prohibitive and the quarantine service is there, why are those commodities passing through our borders and they are getting outside the country? You know, these are issues that the government is looking at at the very moment, because there was a circular concerning the number of government agencies that should be at the ports, and we are saying that the quarantine service is saying that it is proper that we are properly placed so that any commodity passing through, we should be able to know what is happening.
Okay. Dr. Vincent Isegbe, thank you very much for your opening comments and statements. You've raised a number of issues and also pulled the conversation along with your colleague Ezeagu in the perspective that we'll follow upon. Namely, Juma, he was saying just now that export business is not meant for all commerce. In other words, simply because I produce, I say, look, I'm targeting the export market, and therefore I just proceed to do what I'm supposed to do. There is also the export certification value chain, details of which we'll extract from him in the course of the conversation. But happily, Emeka Okengu is here with us, a regular guest on Good Morning Nigeria. Dr. Okengu, what, from your perspective, has been our experience with agricultural produce export? What is wrong?
Thank you very much. There is what they call the maximum residue levels. That is the standard. So let us first and foremost begin to start this conversation from understanding these maximum residue values or levels. You see, the moment you're not able to run within that circle, whatever it is you produce cannot get into the international market. That's one.
Explain that maximum residue levels.
It's you cannot, if it's more than a certain level.
Let's just use percentage.
Vis-a-vis, I think about 25-30%, and this is where what you call gamma radiation or gamma irradiation comes in. I need for us to be able to build the block so that we can know where we are. All right, and then I want us to recall that in 2000. The American government had established what they call the African Great Opportunity Act, okay? And not one of our products was able to get in there because of their food, standards too. Even for animals consumption, we couldn't make it. And then when we now go back, it was traced to 2 pesticides for, I think, the seeds, melon seeds, that's what they call aflatoxin, okay? Then I think for the beans, I think it's either Dichlovox or something, the Dichlovox pesticides. Now, this is the part of it from the chemical perspective, so we are totally and completely out. And as we speak today, over 76% of our products do not qualify, cannot qualify to get into the export market based on these residue levels, based on this use of pesticides and chemicals. And then we now get us to the next level. Why is this? Did we used to export before? And if we did, what were we doing right? Each time the Ministry of Agriculture comes onto your show, I see that they talk about extension services, okay? They have an extension services department that is supposed to be oversighting. But in the days that those extension services worked, were in the days you had farm settlements, if you remember. Okay, and because you had these farm settlements aggregated within some kind of infrastructure, it was very easy for you to now, send in extension officers and then be able to now, superintend standards. So this is the first failure. Okay? Now, another failure is that we are talking about farmers as people who have capacity to produce what can be sold. It's also important that we bring to bear that over 90% of farmers in Nigeria are subsistence farmers. And each time I use that word, I say they are gardeners. Okay? A lot of them now produce what might not even be enough for their own consumption. So, and if you're talking about export, you're basically talking about volume. Let's first and foremost agree that for you to start talking about export, the first demand of export is that you must be able to have the right volumes. If you don't have those right volumes, first, you can't even get a contract. That's to start with. Second, the cost of your taking your exports out will be overbearing. You can't be able to make any profit. So the issues of us qualifying for exports are myriad. If you just look at it from the perspective of standards, you might not be getting the full picture. You must also be able to look at it from the perspective of a back end. And then it goes beyond the farmer, unfortunately. Okay? The first demand for you to be able to get a good product is land. And then when you're talking about land, there are three issues that come with land. First issue is land management. Second issue is land delineation. Third issue is land preparation. Fourth issue is now the use of that land. And in the use of a land, the first thing that now comes into mind is your seeds and the quality of the seeds you're putting on the land. The second issue now becomes your chemicals, your fertilizers, or your pesticides that you now use on those products. This is where these minimums and maximums begin to play. So I think that if we reviewed AGOA as a standard, this is what has been here since 2000. 20 years down the line, we've not been able to get in any product, through the AGOA. That should tell you that a lot needs to be done more. The quarantine services can only but protect what is being given to them. It's not their business to go and start aggregating products. It is their business to make certain that whatever it is they've aggregated, if I get their duty right, now passes, into the international market. And then this is again in this point of aggregation that you even start creating more issues. You have 100 farmers farming egusi. This one is using pesticides. This one is using insecticides. This one is using fertilizer. This one is using that. This one is using cow dung. This one is using chicken dung. This one is not using anything. And then by the end of the day, one importer now goes to start buying, like a lot of women do now. Okay, this is season of egusi. Let's go and start buying from everybody who is selling. They go and buy it and then store it up. And somebody says, oh, egusi sells for X amount of money in Accra or in this thing. They load it, run to quarantine service and say, give us quarantine certificate to be able to export. Now, you don't even know where you can begin to do this traceability. Is it from bag 1 or bag 2 or bag 100? You don't even know where you've bought from. You could be that somewhere bought in Calabar, somewhere bought in Umuahia, somewhere bought in Ogoja. So there's a lot of confusion that needs to be sorted out. And this confusion can be streamlined by simply understanding that we are dealing with the primary issue of volume. That the moment you're able to aggregate that your volume and then get an aggregation point, oversight and superintending standards becomes a lot easier for everybody who's involved. However, like I said earlier, it is not enough for you to just talk about gather it together and let us superintend standards. Now, extension services is all about making certain that what should be used is used. If you have 1 million farmers, it goes to say that at least you must be requiring a minimum of 300 extension officers to be able to oversight them. If you are talking about 1 extension officer to maybe 10 farmers, is that not true? Where are you going to get them from? Where do you even have this compendium of farms or farmers? In fact, what you have are a compendium of farmers or list of farmers, and everybody can put his name as a farmer. Have you been able to match these names against land? And then what services are we giving to these farmers vis-a-vis making certain that the most important component of what they do, which is land preparation, okay, that somebody is supporting them to be able to do the right thing? I think these are the issues.
Thank you so much you brought up a lot of pertinent questions. You are a farmer, you know what happens out there, and I believe Nigerians are listening. Let's now join Professor Mohammed Kuta. He's the Department of Agricultural Extension and Rural Development, University of Ibadan. Let's bring in your experience into this conversation. As it is known, most farmers of cash crops in Nigeria are still at the subsistence level. How does this impact export of agricultural produce from Nigeria to other countries?
Thank you very much, and for the opportunity to add my voice to the ongoing conversation about the situation of export potentials of Nigeria. Let me start with appreciating the immediate past speaker for recognizing the extension as a vital ingredient and the missing link in the entire scenario of the agricultural enterprise in Nigeria. And I will give a scenario in a typical theater. When somebody is billed for surgery, you require different expertise in the theater. It's not that just one doctor will just go into the theater and do the operation and you come out. No. Even if the anesthetist is not on ground, the doctor has to wait. So you have to get everybody, the nurses, the lab attendant, everybody must have done their own bit in order to have a successful surgery. So if we want to have a successful agriculture in Nigeria, the missing link, which is the extension system, must be revitalized, reinvigorated, and situated properly along the entire agricultural value chain. We have, over the years, concentrated on production. Now, the world is moving towards a different level in terms of the issue of organic agriculture. You need the issue of agrochemical utilization and management. There are a lot of issues there that the farmers are not aware. And where they're even aware, there are a lot of sharp practices because of high level of conduct of quacks in the delivery and support system in terms of extension, in terms of agrochemical cells. And there are a lot of coalitions that have come together to work on all these issues that are affecting farmers negatively and their products. To address this issue, I'm making a passionate appeal from the quarantine service to the departments in the export promotion, and that all the issues that have been identified, they are not insurmountable. There are things that can be addressed at the training level of the principal characters that are going to go into the Nigerian agricultural system. We need to also have an interface with different levels of regulators of our educational system, particularly the National Universities Commission, particularly the National Board for Technical Education, in terms of curriculum development that will be in tune with the global realities in the agricultural sector. We cannot continue to live in the past when there are a lot of emergencies and realities that are confronting agriculture based on the global trend. We cannot continue to train our students at various levels of the educational system based on things that have happened 20, 50, 30 years ago. It's unacceptable to the current reality. The world is dynamic, and therefore our scholarship engagement, our human capacity training must accommodate these new trends. As the director said, the issue of agricultural value chain has been in the front burner for almost a decade now. But before then, it was concentrated on production because we wanted to meet domestic requirements in terms of food consumption that citizens need. Now, agriculture is not only the fastest growing sector of the economy and the highest contributor to the GDP. In 2020, over 321 billion was generated from agricultural export, in spite of all the challenges enumerated. That means if we are already talking about even growth in the GDP from 22% to 23.5% in the second quarter of 2021, in spite of all the challenges that you have mentioned and enumerated by previous speakers, that means the potential can hit the roof if we put our house in order by addressing the issues that are affecting our productivity. As you said, China is already taking over most of the crops that Africa, being a tropical setting, used to have the leading role. But because of their seriousness, they have even exported our scientists from Africa to go and help them develop the varieties and cultivars within their agroecological situation. And today, they are already exporting to most of the European countries where we had our primary market. And that brings me to the reason. Must we even export raw products? Can't we add value to these products that we have produced and then export the final product and compete with the global best options? Go to Belgium and go to other European countries that are producing chocolate today. They don't have one single plant of cocoa. What they have is the technology to convert this cocoa into various products. So what we need to do, we have our own advantage if we can produce some of those products and convert and add value chain. We are going to be creating employment. For example, after all said and done, Cote d'Ivoire will export cocoa and generate $1 billion. At the end of the day, the countries buying the cocoa will generate $18 to $20 billion from the same cocoa. More income and more employment for their citizens. So we're even reducing our opportunity for reducing unemployment. So what we need to do is to sit down from all the stakeholders, and I am calling on the government of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and we must give it to President Muhammadu Buhari for the consistency in banning the importation of certain products that we could produce in Nigeria. And the slogan that we should produce what we eat what we produce, must be taken beyond rhetorics by all the agencies of government affected, so that we can begin to move towards serious industrialization, where whatever technology that is needed can be put in place in Nigeria, and we produce and avoid sharp practices and live and act in line with the global standard. Nigeria will now be the next destination. And I give it to the governor of Cross River State, who is already moving towards producing chocolates by establishing a cocoa factory that could convert all this cocoa. And I'm anxious to see that these plants come to being within the shortest possible time, so that Nigeria will begin to export high quality cocoa byproducts from Nigeria. That will create employment for our youth. That will reduce and increase our export earnings and reduce the burden on Nigeria economy. And the time to do it now is to support the president's move for diversification, as virtually the issue of hydrocarbon is becoming secondary even in the global map of climate change, of green energy desire, of many things that are happening in the industry.
All right, Professor Yahaya.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Professor Yahaya, we're going to have to pause you. I mean, you've raised a number of pertinent issues. We'll come back to you to deal with issues around extension services and what can be done to revitalize that as part of the addition to our agricultural produce, the quality of our agricultural produce. Let's come back to the studios. And Dr. Vincent Isegbe, again, for the tools of analysis as well as the frameworks that you gentlemen have provided. Tell us, it looks like we are here dealing with a challenge of an all-commerce business in the agricultural export trade. And therefore, you know, we're having complications. Just give us a picture of what exactly we are faced with now and what the points of intervention should be and by whom.
Okay. Thank you very much. My colleagues have spoken well, and we've taken note of all the observations that they have made. The issue of Okay, let me answer your question direct first, then I can add up to what they have said. Now, the challenges are enormous, like I said. It's not supposed to be an all-commerce business. You need to know exactly what you want to export, the country that you export to, and what are the conditions in that country. From the import permit that the country will give to you through their quarantine service, they will state clearly how they want their product. They'll tell you the humidity, the quality of the seeds, the percentage contaminants, and where they suspect that probably you have issues with pesticides, like in Nigeria, they will tell you the milligrams per kg, which is the standard measuring unit for pesticide levels in agricultural produce. Like, the case of beans, it was reported that we had between 0.03 to about 4.6, which is very, very high. Now, for each country, they'll tell you. Most times, the levels in EU are slightly lower. If I say lower, I will explain what I mean by low. Because if I don't explain lower, it may mean higher. Lower than in the US. What I mean lower in EU countries is that their pesticide levels permissible is low. That is in a level 1 to 10 is low, from 1 to 3, than up to 8, 9, 10. So they have more stringent rules and regulations when it comes to that. So you need to know. And you need to know too the permitted fumigant to be used in taking care of the pests, as the case is. Take the case of Mexico that Mr. Ezeagu mentioned. They particularly requested that we should use methabromide because of a particular pest called Trogoderum granarum, which in common term is called capra beetle. That one is very hardy, and the fumigant of recommendation is that methabromide. So that is what we use for them. Of course, there were issues of methabromide in the media some time ago, but if you look at the Montreal Protocol of 1992, there are 3 exemption clauses for methabromide. First and foremost is the one called quarantine pre-shipment. Nigeria is a low-consuming country for methabromide, so for now, we can use. And it's not for every product that we use the methabromide. Most times we use the fosuzin and others which are less toxic, and it can wear off within a particular period of time. So we don't have issues with that. So how you transport it, how you label it, and how you deliver to your importer, it's very important that you have all those things stated. Take the case of yam. In Nigeria, we eat big fat yams because we have large family size. But the yam size going overseas is between 1.8 and 2.2 kilograms. Small, slim, slender yam with the head neat. So you need to understand those market dynamics when you are exporting. If you believe that, somebody's exporting yam, must go and carry the hydra-headed kind of fat yams, with those ones that have big fingers, like we have, you know what I mean?
They look like human beings.
Those ones will not go. So those are the little market dynamics that we need to understand, to be able to export. Now, somebody coming in new will not understand all those challenges, and he will think that, okay, he will do that. Then another example, interestingly, cassava. There are ethanol-based cassava, there's high-quality cassava-based cassava, and there's other products for cassava. So if a country is asking you, or they request for cassava to be used for ethanol, and you don't know the variety to export, and you carry your cargo there and they test it for ethanol, you run into big trouble. Because when it gets there, they show the statistics, it has not met our standards. So what they quoted probably to you, they can't pay. They may either ask you to take it back or you resupply. And if you don't want to resupply, you may be willing just to sell to them at any price, for which is of no use to them. They may use it for something else. So all those things are important. And that's why we are saying that This export certification value chain is all encompassing. It will take care of all the nitty-gritty issues that my colleague lawyer has just mentioned and that Ms. Ezago has mentioned. It is important. It's homegrown, it's practical, and it's workable. We just need to sit down and observe all that we have put in place. You remember some time ago we had this conduit of excellence by UNIDO and other interventions, that brought all the critical stakeholders together to design. After that, what has happened? That will show you that at the end of the day, it did not work out. That's why the quarantine service look at it critically and say, look, all the specific areas that we need to address, let's identify them. Who are the key players? What are they supposed to do? What are their responsibilities? What could be their challenges? Let's sit down. And that's why from that 3-4 years ago, we've been engaging all those stakeholders so that they know which role to play. We have even forgotten to mention the clearing and forwarding agents. Very important. In fact, despite your certification, your fertilizer certificate, if anything goes wrong in their hands, it's as good as that product not being certified. Issue of concealment. You have finished certifying a product, fine and good, and you've given your fertilizer certificate. Along the way, somebody feels that, oh, let him carry agbo, let him carry ogi, let him carry something else just to add as attachment. That has invalidated the quality of the certification for that product. And the whole of that product, despite the fertilizer certificate, will be rejected based on the fact that you have introduced something which has not been certified. So there are a lot of technical issues that are involved. And that's why in that value chain, we have taken care of, sat down with the stakeholder and analyzed every role.
Who are these stakeholders? Who are they?
The stakeholders are the 5 persons I mentioned, and then the ones in between, like the logistic managers and warehouse operators, and then these clearing and forwarding agents.
What about the middlemen?
The middlemen are the aggregators. We have put them together as the exporter group. Because if you split them to become too large, you have probably 15 to 20, which it will not be easy to present to a forum like this. So each of the block value chain have groups that operate in that value chain. And anybody in that side can fault the cleanliness of the operations. Just like they said, a chain is as strong as its weakest point.
No, Dr. Isegbe, and gentlemen, part of what you are saying now, when you talk about the stakeholders, the aggregators, logistics, clearing and forwarding, these are all specialized job areas.
Yes.
Specialized job areas. Now, what is the role of the Export Promotion Council? Because I'm wondering how the quarantine service is probably enabled to deal with these categories of stakeholders in the agricultural export value chain in different parts of the country. I mean, you can't spread yourself too thinly. Does the Export Promotion Council play a role in this? And are state governments also involved in any way?
Now,
I want a question to, I want Ezeagu to, you want to also respond to that?
Yes, let me respond so that he is the person that will answer probably after I proceed. Now, if you listen to what I said earlier, we are facing challenges where people come with consignments to us. I hold 125 containers cannot go. And we are saying, how did it get to this point?
That's right.
So nobody checked. And I said, we're doing backward integration to inform the various value chains that this and this and this is what you must do for your product to come to us so that we can pass it. And each of those critical stakeholders know exactly what they should do. So what the quarantine service does is to ensure that those people who have those value chains do what they are supposed to do. We have our offices, we have 6 zonal offices across the country, and all we do is spot check. State government, this is your responsibility. This is happening. We found out that at the export inspection certification desk, this is what we found out. It means there's something wrong. Engage them. We don't control them. We don't control state government. We don't control the exporters or importers, but we set the standard for them to go and do what we call self-regulation. That is the point I think I missed out. Self-regulation is what we are supposed to do. Once we do this, let me give an example of the suppliers now. The hibiscus suppliers. Let me concentrate on the hibiscus suppliers in Kano. We have arranged this and say, look, for you to be successful, this is what you should do. They have the association. We told them, engage yourself with the police. We told the state government, these are your people. They are farmers in your state. So this is what we think they can do to be successful, to bring us that product. So engage them. So the suppliers, the suppliers engage the police, say, come, let's partner together. State government brought them. Now, if anybody misbehaves within that association, they themselves will take the person to the police as violating that system. They operate it. But when we realize that there's a problem, it will show us a red flag at the export desk. We come back and say, look, you people are not doing the right thing. Why don't you do this and that and that? We allow them to do it. We cannot be anywhere. We cannot do all the things. And if we don't do what we are doing, my brother, there is no way that we'll be able to do export. During COVID, 1 week after there was that ban, we approached the SGF. I said, sir, cargo planes are coming into the country, bringing COVID materials, and most of them are flying empty. Why don't we give us the permission so that we can do export? And within 3 days, the SGF gave us the permission. So we were able to, during the Presidential Task Force on COVID-19, the previous name, so we still continue to do the export because we felt overseas there was serious lockdown. People need to eat food. And since we have the opportunity, why don't we take advantage of it? So the issue now is they are into export promotion. They have a very big role to sensitize to Ghana to do exactly what they are doing. But don't forget, that certification, the rules and regulations, or like they say, the rules of engagement in export lies with the quarantine service. So we must share that information. We work very closely with export certification. That's why you hear him say, I will speak on this issue, I will speak on that issue. We work very, very closely with them.
Good. Ezeagu.
Thank you, sir. I want to say that at this point that the Nigerian Promotion Council have been doing greatly in terms of sensitization. At this point, we have about 33 offices. We call them the smart offices in about 33 states. We have, of course, 6 regional offices, meaning that we are at any level, Nigerian Export Promotion Council is there. And because we are there, we are working with the state government. Every state we work with the state government through this what we call the State Committee on Export Promotion, which bring all the stakeholders in that state together. More importantly, that every area. Let me take an example of the hibiscus which he's talking about. Now, there was a time that we had problem with Mexico. Export Promotion Council went with NAQS to Mexico to sort out the issue. And it's a result of that, we came back to reorganize and everything works. Now, the missing point there was the issue of infrastructure, which is because it's talking of the MB, the methyl bromide you're talking about. So they needed to have infrastructure where this actually is one of the key requirements which they need to do. Because it was lacking. The Export Promotion Council intervened with the private sector promoters to be able to put it in place. So today, most of the exports that go into Mexico pass through these processes. That's intervention by NEPC. I also talked about the training. In fact, if anything we have done so much, it's in the area of training and sensitization. Every week, different part of the country, stakeholders, different stakeholders, we have gone beyond bringing people together to go sector by sector, okay? If we are talking of hibiscus, we call hibiscus exporters. If we are talking of ginger, we get ginger exporters. We are talking of sesame seed, we bring sesame exporters. So this every day we do that. We also have what we call we have the trainings for exporters, new exporters, zero to export, whereby we bring new people who have retired from service, people who have money, and bring them together, give them training for 3 months, so do this, can get it right. Because actually where we are talking about is export actually is meant for the people who have the knowledge and the capacity. And that's why we're talking of people who have got retired, people who have, who have been business, perhaps in oil and gas, they want to move to export. Yes, these are people who can, because if you give them information, they can able to go run with it. And that's why we're doing that specialized training for them. At this point, I want to say that Nigeria Export Promotion has done so much because we believe that non-oil export is a pathway to progress, economic growth for this country. It is the surest way to go. Now, we are doing a lot of things. Recently, of course, you must hear how we empower the SMEs, our exporters, through the Export Development Fund, which for 40 years the Export Promotion Council was founded. It has not happened, but it has happened. We enable them. Why we do that? Because we believe there's, like one of the speakers says, the exporters, the farmers we are talking today, they are subsistence farmers. Now, export is so sophisticated right now. One is the volume, two is the capital intensive, three is the knowledge. A lot of knowledge gap is needed. This knowledge gap could be in terms, for example, a lot of people are not eating, they're eating organic food. So we just have to certify. And organic is not just mere fact that, I'm not using fertilizer, I'm not using inorganic fertilizer to grow. No, it means certification. You must bring a third party to certify the product this product has not used any chemical to produce. And that's why the capacity training is important. Currently, as I'm talking to you now, we are about training about 6 places in this country today that are teaching people on how to grow organic food. We're also satisfying. We're even paying. We're now paying for I'm talking about FDA. We discover it's a very impediment. If you're going to the US, you have done your fish, maybe you're doing fish drying. Fantastic products you have produced, but it has no FDA. It cannot go anywhere. And it's expensive. So what we do, we have taken off the exporters. We are now paying for this FDA to be, on behalf of the exporters. We are paying for HACCP. HACCP is the fundamental. If you are going to produce for export, what people eat, food safety, these are food safety certifications that are key. That you cannot go anywhere beyond this country without certifying your product for one certification or the other. Food safety is key. So we are paying for HACCP for exporters now, for SMEs to go to export. Okay? We also pay for Global Gap. These are also certifications. You must go, if you are going to Europe, you must get Global Gap. You must get the BRC. These are certifications that that you must. If you're a manufacturer, you must have ISO 9001 2015. Okay, these are certifications. These are actually certifications that will give you a level playing ground international. For example, under the AFTA now, the African Free Trade, Continental Free Trade Area, mechanism. Now, if my exporter from Nigeria, from Egypt, from Kenya is exporting to South Africa, now the common denominator for them is to have certification. Your product might be best, might be good, but if you don't have certification, don't back up the product, you are just nowhere. So that's why we're providing this, free access to certification for exporters. Those who have quality product will assess your product. We know that it's good. Again, if you are exporting to, say, Middle East, you need halal certification. If you're exporting to Israel, the Jewish population, you need what to call the kosher certification. If you're exporting cocoa, somebody talk about cocoa. Why do we reject cocoa? You might find out that it's just certification. It might be sustainable certification, sustainable from rainforest. Okay, so these are third-party providers of certification. You must invite them to the farm. And these are things actually, you think maybe they're minor issues, but they're not. These are major issues. If you're exporting cocoa to Europe without sustainability certification, your product might be good, it might be fantastic, but
how does the farmer in Edo State, in Ondo State, in Cross River, and these are the leading cocoa producers in the country, the farmer is right there in the village, how does he know about this? Anyway, the points you have raised are noted. We're going to have to take a short break now, gentlemen, and when we return, we'll continue with the conversation.
The Presidential Steering Committee on COVID-19 cordially invites heads of federal government ministers
in Nigeria. This message is from the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
Thanks for rejoining us, and we're still discussing enhancing agricultural produce in Nigeria for export. Let me now join Dr. Okenwa. Let's look at the private sector. You as a private sector farmer coming into the business of export, at times we say government should do everything. How can the private sector come into this export business and enhance it?
I think the question should be, how can the government produce that enabling environment to be able to get the private sector
on board,
to drive it properly?
Yes.
Now, first, the farmer might not have any business with that export. The farmer necessarily does not have to do anything with the export. Okay, his role, if you aggregate properly, that aggregation point is where you had the marketing boards. It is at the point of that marketing boards, okay, that people who now want to take out of the country can begin to take. But Juma, let's even talk about it from another angle. Do we need to export cassava when we can export ethanol? Now, everybody is talking about chocolate. One of the best grade chocolates now in America comes from shea nut butter or shea nut. Okay? One of the most expensive or the most expensive body creams you people use as women come from shea butter.
Yes.
And this is something that grows in the wild all across Nigeria. We are still exporting shea butter nuts that won't pass quarantine. What is wrong with us now exporting the processed butter? And again, the question comes, at what point, what is the relationship? Dr. Anyango had talked about certifications. Who issues these certifications? The ISOs, the HSTs is talking about. Is it Standard Organization of Nigeria or some foreign organization? And what is the role of SGS in this certification? At what point do you begin to certify? Is it at the farm gate when the products are ready to move? Or is it, do you start your certification from when you are now doing your land preparation? This is very, very key. Okay? Now, if Standard Organization cannot issue these certificates, now what is the validity of a certificate being issued by an international agency that has not reviewed this project and can only now ascertain that certification or recertify it when it gets into an SGS warehouse? Now, let me also simplify it further. In every other part of the world that I know of, what you now have are food belts. You no longer have plantations even. People have gone beyond the farm. Nobody talks about farm anymore. People don't even talk about plantations anymore. People are now talking about food belts. And it is in this control of these food belts that you now begin to now create these synergies and these collaborations that you need. And this is why I mentioned the issue of farm settlements. And from Abia State, there's a farm settlement they call Olona Farm Settlement. Olona Farm Settlement sits on more than 12,000 hectares of land, cut across about 7 or 8 communities or local governments in Abia State. It's been abandoned. It was set up by M.I. Okpara. Abandoned. Nothing is happening there as I speak to you. So imagine if you had a farm settlement. There's a Bariam Farm Settlement in Anambra State that is almost as big, if it's not twice as big. Abandoned, nothing is happening to it. And there's so many other farm settlements all over the place. So you're talking about how can the private sector, participate. Imagine that you have created a farm settlement, 12,000 hectares of land should be able to take a minimum of about 30 or 40,000 farmers. Imagine you have 30,000 people, each of them producing 1 bag of melon. Okay, that has the same standards vis-a-vis seeds, that has the same control vis-a-vis pesticides, that has the quarantine office, that has the Export Promotion Council, that has everybody who should be able to now do what they should do at the level of that land and seeds, that now has research centers that are producing the seeds that suit the soil. If I had more time to start telling my stories about seeds here, we take another 2 hours. So in this case, now what have we done? And let me share it with you. We had gone to the Ministry of Science and Technology. I'd mentioned this before to say, listen, you people hold the key to unlocking this, not Ministry of Agriculture. Ministry of Agriculture should be the enabler, but you must be the driver because it is all about technology now. Everything China has done because China has produced the technology. And that technology is all about technology to make certain that they get the maximum value of whatever input that they're talking about. No, China will never export any raw material to you. What they do is that they value it. So I said to the Ministry of Science and Tech, I have an MOU with them running. Let us now establish centers of excellence all across Nigeria. And then get everybody who's supposed to be involved in this to be part of these centers of excellence that can now become climate smart, but be community based. And then that way, every farmer who is planting, okay, whatever it is a farmer is planting, you're planting the same seeds. You're planting on the same soil, texture that suits whatever. You're planting based on the same pesticides. There are people who are now oversighting what you're doing, and you're now aggregating, okay, that this volume you need for, quarantine services to be able to say to you, we knew this was going to come from here, this is where we are. Because whatever Dr. Anyango has said, I was invited, I was in a committee set up by the their office some time ago when Awolowo was there, and we're talking about Nigeria beyond oil. And I think a conversation came in that committee, and they said, "Oh, we're going to be producing 300 metric tons of cocoa." And I turned and said, "How many trees of cocoa will be doing that? And where is the land to plant it? If you're going to be producing 300 million metric tons of cocoa, you'll be needing about 3 billion trees. For crying out aloud, where do you have the land to plant it? We are cutting all our whole land, and then we're building houses on it. So again, this now comes to another question. Yes, everybody says we have 80,000 hectares of arable land. How much of it is in use commercially? How many commercial farms do we have in Nigeria? Now, people talk about pesticides, overuse of pesticides and insecticides. How many people are producing pesticides in Nigeria? We don't even have it. I mean, I have a friend of mine who retired as DG of a NIRIT. He has, an organic fertilizer farm in Abuja here. He's struggling to sell 1 bag of his fertilizer. And do you know the primary input he's using? Neem seeds. We had tried to get to the governor of Sokoto at one time to say, okay, can we begin to even use this to start creating jobs? You have the neem belt running all over. Can we now use this as our national focus to say whatever it is you want to do, this is from us? So starting July, you must start it from that back end. The moment we don't start right, yes, we can talk about all the kinds of certification that you need. If that thing enters into SGS warehouse, and let me tell you how it is now. SGS Nigeria issues you a certification that can make it seaworthy. It is SGF Antwerp, okay, that actually satisfies for you to be paid. You see where the challenge is? So it is not a question of getting the private sector. It is getting government. It is getting quarantine services, just like they're in bed now with NEPC. I would have also wanted DG to say, I'm also in bed with SON, okay? And what I'm doing is that SON is working with me on this, and I'm also in bed with the extension services. So I'm not waiting for this thing to get to this point where I will say, this can't go. Okay, I am starting with you from the seeds. And the seeds council that we have, are they in bed with the quarantine services? Again, that is the aspect of it. But the major part is to say, why do we need to take cassava? Why can't we take chips? Why can't we take ethanol?
Well, that's value addition, Dr. Okenko. Pertinent issues that you have raised. You didn't define it for our viewers. You'll be talking about SGS. That is Société Générale de Surveillance, I believe. Yes. And at some point you mentioned neem seeds. So that somebody doesn't think that it's neem seed you are referring to. You are talking about this neem verification.
Neem seed.
Neem seed.
Dogoyaro.
So that is Dogoyaro. It's not neem seed. No National Identity Management Commission. All right, Dr. Okengo. Thank you very much. Let's bring in Professor Yahaya again into the conversation. Professor Yahaya, well, some of the issues raised have implications for the future. But right now, we do know that we're dealing with a large percentage of informal farmers. That's the smallholder farmers. We don't have many commercial farms. We don't have many functional farm settlements. How do we, in the context of what we have now, as we begin to upscale, bring in more effective extension services into the entire mix? And that means also answering the question, why did extension services fail?
Well, thank you very much, Kingsley, and I do appreciate the fact that many people are beginning to appreciate that extension is very critical if we have to get it right. And at each level of this engagement, you realize that knowledge is critical. And those who have the responsibility of educating these people or engaging them are the people who are professionally trained to handle this matter, which is extension. And I can tell you, if you ask the quarantine service director now, or the Export Promotion Council director, how many extension professionals have they employed in their organization? You realize that we have many people who have graduated with PhDs, with masters, and they don't have jobs. Meanwhile, you will go and pick somebody based on some, unacceptable considerations, get them the job, and they cannot deliver. So every day you keep on repeating the same thing. So we must, of necessity, sir, address these gaps. Let the system absorb most of those who have the training to assist. In this circumstance, I've mentioned it before, that in not any of these trainings that you have input about the issue of quarantine service beyond the just peripheral engagement. We need to go beyond that. How many of these organizations create interface between universities, polytechnics, and those who are training for opportunity for sideways or internship, where those who are even in the system training can come and start to learn before they even leave school? Or do they even make themselves open for even sabbatical position, where those who are in the university system, those who are in the research institute, can come and spend some of their own time in terms of engagement, sabbaticals that they are entitled to legally, to come and work and experience what they do in practical realities. And that is the synergy that I will advance and call for between the town and the gown, so that Nigeria will not continue to cry for some of these inadequacies where you have men and women of caliber that can drive the process. So I will summarily say, let there be a convocation of all the stakeholders in the Nigerian agricultural system to come and interface and interact on the way forward for Nigeria to maximize our potentials in the export industry. Let not NAPC be doing it alone. Let not the quarantine service be doing it only with NAPC. Let all the stakeholders be involved. And the private sector, as a major driver, at least I've seen a very good example with the business visa and training, where one individual and his organization is interfacing with the Ministry of Trade and Industries to promote what entrepreneurs are doing in terms of value addition, in terms of even engaging external embassies to see how they can participate and benefit. So for me, I see a window of opportunity if we can be open and interface together on this matter.
Okay, Professor Mohammed Kutai, thank you so much. Let's now come back to the studio as we begin to round up the program today. Dr. Vincent Isegwe, let's have your closing thoughts. Is there a quick solution to these issues? Briefly.
Quick solution is that, one, we should imbibe self-regulation. Second, create awareness amongst ourselves. Third, be committed to the fact that we must do the right thing. Fourth, engage what I call technological disruption. That is, bringing technology to add value to our products. Six is to ensure that we use biopesticides like is mentioned. We have worked closely with University of Ibadan and ABU on this same neem seed, because we are trying to find an alternative biopesticides that is degradable, instead of using the synthetic ones. This forum is so large, the issue is so large that it's because of the comments they are making. That's why I'm making these interjections. But the bottom line is that we don't have a choice. As individuals, we don't have a choice. As a nation, we don't have a choice. Agric is the way to go, all the way, every time. We must do that. Secondly, lastly, I want to say that we, the regulatory and conformity assessment bodies, we need to work more closely with each other so that we can achieve our success.
That means you dismantle the silos that each of you is operating in right now. Emeka Okengo, that's what you meant, right?
I think for me, my own closing thought would be make it a straight line. Okay, the moment you get Son, Oga, Quarantine, SGS Nigeria, not SGS France, We must be able to create our own SGS Nigeria to now begin to now, you know, create our own local certifications based on the principles, based on the support of a quarantine agency. Then the next thing we're going to be doing is to now ask ourselves a simple question. If other people are producing to export and sell abroad, why are we taking our own primary products and selling to them and they're returning it to us as oils and fats? It just has to change.
Okay, Dr. Emeka Okengo, he's a farmer and development economist. Thank you so much for your input on the program. Director General, Agriculture Quarantine Service, Dr. Vincent Isegbe. It's been a pleasure having you on the program.
I'm grateful.
Mr. William Ezeago, thank you so much for coming on the program. Professor Mohammed Kuta Yahya from the Department of Agricultural Extension and Rural Development, thank you for your input on the program. We take foreign news now.